young man on a bridge in Tokyo. It's the early 1940s. War is raging. He's been cornered by the secret police.
Right.
And instead of surrendering, he rips a chunk of the iron railing loose with his bare hands and uses it as a weapon.
It sounds like something out of an action movie.
It really does. But now, freeze that image. Because if I told you that this exact same guy was also a top-tier electrical engineering student, a mystic who has conversations with his bowl of rice, and a day laborer who voluntarily sleeps in a louse-infested slum.
You'd say that's three different characters.
Exactly. You'd tell me to pick a genre. But they're all one person.
And that person is not fictional.
Not at all. We're looking at a specific and incredibly intense autobiographical account from a young Korean student in Japan between 1942 and 1945. The text itself is called Doctorate in the Philosophy of Suffering.
And that title really says it all, doesn't it? It's the whole thesis statement for this period of his life.
Yeah, it does a lot of heavy lifting, because when we hear doctorate, we think of, libraries and exams and a piece of paper.
But this deep dive is about a totally different definition. He treats suffering, what he calls the crucible of despair, not as some tragedy to be avoided, but as a deliberate, structured curriculum.
A curriculum.
Yeah.
Right. He saw the absolute bottom of human existence as a classroom. And if you haven't been there, you basically haven't done your homework. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out why.
The why is everything.
Why would someone who could live comfortably choose to go clean sulfuric acid vats? How does that help you understand God or leadership?
To get that, I think we have to start at the beginning, the departure. It's 1942. He's leaving Korea, which is under colonial rule, to study in Tokyo, the heart of the empire.
And this is not an exciting study abroad trip. The way he describes the train ride to the port city of Busan is just visceral. It's heart-wrenching. He says he sat on the train, covered his head with his coat, and just sobbed until his face was swollen. But it wasn't just his own sadness.
No, he projects it.
Yeah.
He writes that the hills and rivers were weeping even more than he was.
Tears flowing from the grass and the trees. It's so poetic.
That's a crucial detail, that personification.
Yeah.
He's not just an individual leaving home. He feels like he's abandoning this living, suffering being. And he makes a pact with the land itself.
He does. He tells the hills, don't cry. Wait for me. I will return carrying liberation.
So there's this immense pressure right from the start. He's not just going to get a degree and a good job. He's on a mission to gather power, intellectual power, to bring back home.
So he arrives in Tokyo, and this is where we hit that first big contradiction. You have this deeply spiritual, poetic young man who can feel the tears of the grass. You'd expect him to study, what, philosophy? Literature?
Theology, maybe?
Right. But he enrolls at Waseda University to study electrical engineering.
It seems like such a mismatch. But this is our first real glimpse into his unique worldview. He writes that he couldn't create a new religious philosophy without first understanding modern science.
I really struggled with that at first. How does knowing how a circuit works help you understand the divine?
Well, he makes this argument that the invisible world of mathematics has a lot in common with religion.
Okay.
Think about it. Engineering is binary. A circuit works or it doesn't. A bridge stands or it collapses. There's an absolute truth there.
Ah, so he felt religion got lost in vague feelings.
Exactly. In subjective interpretations. He wanted a faith that had the structural integrity of a mathematical proof. He wanted exact knowledge.
He's trying to engineer a theology, and he attacks his studies with this just terrifying intensity. He had 3 Bibles open on his desk at all times.
Simultaneously. Korean, Japanese, and English. And he's cross-referencing them line by line, marking them up until the pages are black with ink.
It's that engineer's brain again. He's triangulating the meaning. He had to find the root.
And he did the same thing with his professors. He would just pester them with the question, why, over and over.
To the point where they would start avoiding him in the hallway because they were embarrassed they couldn't answer him.
He wasn't trying to be a pest. He just refused to accept surface-level knowledge. But there's another part of his academic story we have to mention.
Oh, the large head theory.
The large head theory.
I love this. Amidst all of this high-minded philosophy, he just drops in this anecdote that he had a physically massive head.
Like, literally couldn't buy a hat off the rack.
He had to go to a factory twice to get one custom made.
And he was convinced this was a biological advantage. He believed his ability to focus and solve complex problems came from this trait.
You know, it's funny, but I think it's more than that. It speaks to how he saw himself. He felt he was literally built differently, constructed to carry a heavier load than other people.
That's a great point. He saw himself as a machine built for capacity, and he needed it because while he's acing his exams, he's also living this whole other life as a ball of fire.
Right, which brings us to the resistance movement. We have to remember the context here. It's the Great East Asian War. Korean students in Tokyo were under intense scrutiny.
Being conscripted, being watched, and yet he's not keeping his head down at all. He's a key figure in the underground independence movement,
Communicating with the provisional government back in Shanghai.
which was incredibly dangerous work. He knew he was under constant surveillance. The thought police, as he calls them, followed him everywhere.
And he wasn't exactly subtle. There's that scene at the welcome event for new students. The Japanese police are there watching everyone.
Arms crossed, intimidating everyone.
Then what does he do? He stands up and sings a Korean song with great fervor.
It's a total provocation.
Yeah.
In a time when assimilation was demanded, singing that song was like lighting a flare in a dark room.
Yeah.
It's an assertion of identity.
And of course, that led to consequences. He was arrested repeatedly. And the way he describes the interrogation rooms, it's disturbing, but also kind of awe-inspiring.
He talks about the torture, being beaten.
Hmm.
But this is where that philosophy of suffering stops being a theory.
And starts being a survival mechanism. He has this line. He says, "The more they beat me, the bolder I became."
It's a profound psychological inversion. I mean, the whole goal of torture is to break your will,
Right.
to make you feel small.
Right.
But he managed to flip the script. He decided the pain was proof that he was righteous, that he was a serious threat, that he must be powerful.
It reminds me of that bridge scene we started with, the Yotsugawa Bridge. He's fleeing the police, rips out the railing to fight them. He calls himself a ball of fire in those years.
An uncontrollable, radiant energy. He wasn't just enduring, he was projecting force.
But then comes the paradox, and this is the part I think is hardest for us to grasp today. You have a man fighting for his life against the state. You would think he would seek out any comfort he could find,
Any safety.
but instead he actively seeks out more hardship. He steps out of that interrogation room and walks directly into the slums.
This is the crucible of labor.
Okay, so I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. He has money, his family sends him funds, but he gives it all away. He chooses to live like a beggar. Is that real suffering if you have an escape hatch?
That's the central question, isn't it? Does the choice invalidate the experience? He would argue that the choice is what makes it educational.
How so?
Well, if you're forced into poverty, you're a victim. You spend all your energy just trying to get out. But if you choose to go down there, you're an observer. You're there to learn. He wanted to know what human existence looked like at absolute zero.
And he definitely found out. The jobs he took were just brutal. Coal heaver, janitor, fortune teller.
Let's talk about the coal barges. He describes working in a team of 3, filling a barge with 120 tons of coal, working until 1 in the morning.
It's backbreaking, but he turned it into a sport. He was proud that his team could do in one night what took others 3 days.
He was always testing the limits of his body. But the coal was nothing compared to the Kawasaki steel mill.
The sulfuric acid vats, ugh, this part made my lungs hurt just reading it.
He was cleaning the storage vats. The fumes were so toxic that the safety limit was 15 minutes. Any longer and you'd pass out or die.
He's literally selling his health for a wage he doesn't even need.
But by doing that, he earns the respect of the people who do need that wage. And that's the key. He wasn't just working there. He was living in the slums of Shinagawa with the so-called lowest people in society.
And the conditions were horrific. He talks about sharing quilts that were so infested with lice, he describes them as walking in line formation.
It's a nightmare image. But listen how he frames it. He doesn't recount it with disgust. He says on sunny days, they'd all sit outside and pick the lice off each other's hair.
He found an irresistible warmth of heart in that filth. He calls them his brothers.
He realized that when you're stripped of everything covered in coal dust and lice, the human connection is actually purer.
And he applied that same thinking to the women in the district, the street prostitutes. He would just sit with them.
He makes a point of saying he didn't drink alcohol, which is usually how those interactions happen.
Yeah.
He just listened. He offered them sincere sympathy.
And because he had no ulterior motive, he wasn't a client, he wasn't a judge, they opened up to him. He was just gathering data, building that encyclopedia of experience.
But he wasn't just a passive observer. When he saw injustice, that ball of fire came right back out.
The story with the foreman.
Right. He finds out a foreman is skimming 30% of the workers' wages. This is money people need to survive.
So the student philosopher just vanishes and the resistance fighter appears. He grabs a couple of friends and confronts the guy, demands the money.
The foreman refuses. He goes back the next day, refused again
Mhm.
on the third day.
He physically kicks the foreman down. He uses force. It's a reminder that his philosophy isn't about passivity. It's not just taking abuse. It's about understanding suffering so deeply that you'll fight to stop it when it's unjust.
There's one more layer to this doctorate that we have to get into. We've done mind, politics, labor. Now we have to talk about the body, specifically about hunger.
This might be the most mystical part of his whole story. His relationship with food was, well, it was borderline supernatural.
Borders on is putting it mildly.
He would sit down to eat and literally interrogate his bowl of rice. He'd ask it, "Did I work hard enough today to deserve you?"
Did I do something for the public good? And if the answer was no, she wouldn't eat. He writes that if he felt he was worthy, the rice would smile back at him.
He didn't eat lunch until he was 30 years old. He kept himself in the state of semi-starvation.
But then, and this is so typical of him, he'd go to the complete opposite extreme.
Oh, yeah. When he decided to eat, it was a competitive eating event. He lists his stats. 11 large bowls of udon in one sitting.
7 bowls of chicken and egg rice. It's the behavior of an extremist in every part of his life.
He did the same with cold. He refused to heat his room and slept under a single sheet of newspaper in the dead of winter.
And claimed it felt as warm as a silk quilt.
Which, I'm sorry, sounds a lot like a hallucination brought on by hypothermia.
Laughs. It might have been. But his point was that the sensation of cold is relative. If your mind is strong enough, a newspaper is a blanket. He was proving he was the master of his own sensory experience.
So let's bring this all together. The engineer, the rebel, the laborer, the ascetic. What's the end game here? Why go through this encyclopedia of experience, as he calls it?
He believed that to be a real leader, you have to travel the entire spectrum of human experience. He uses a great metaphor about water. He says, water that does not flow becomes stale.
That part really stuck with me. He's saying that if you only know the high position, if you've only ever been comfortable and safe, you're stagnant water.
Exactly. To be fresh, flowing water, you have to know how to fall to the lowest point, crash on the rocks, and then wait for your moment to rise again. If you're afraid of falling, you'll do anything to protect your position.
And that fear makes you weak. It makes you corruptible.
He says young people should devour these experiences, rush towards the difficulty. Because once you've earned that doctorate, once you've been tortured and starved and worked until you collapse, what is left to be afraid of?
That's the ultimate payoff. It's not a degree, it's a state of being. He defines success as the confidence to say, and this is a quote, "I can go all around the country and I'll never come across a person who is capable of defeating me."
What a statement.
It's a staggering level of confidence, not because he's the strongest or the richest, but because he has already endured the worst thing anyone could possibly do to him.
He has what he calls body intelligence. He claims he can look at someone and know their character just by how they stand because he's been that person. He's been the janitor, the student, the prisoner. He contains multitudes.
You know, it's such a compelling argument against the way we tend to live now. We optimize everything for comfort and efficiency.
We have an app to deliver our food so we don't have to wait. We have climate control so we're never too hot or too cold. We curate our lives so we don't see things that upset us.
And in doing that, are we disqualifying ourselves from true leadership? If you've never even visited the basement of the human experience, how can you possibly design the building?
How can you relate to the people who are living there?
So here's the thought we want to leave you with. In a world that sells us comfort as the ultimate prize, are we actually making ourselves fragile? If you were stripped of your job, your status, and your comfort tomorrow, would you crumble?
Or have you earned enough credits in the philosophy of suffering to know that you could survive the fall?
It's a scary question. But as our subject today showed, the answer might be waiting for you in the places you're most afraid to go.
Something to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.